She called it trash in front of the client. My name is Adam, 27 years old, industrial designer at Terwin Defense in Salt Lake City, Utah. I had spent 4 months on that prototype. 4 months of late nights, revisions, technical drawings, and materials testing. It was a modular storage system for emergency response vehicles. Clean, functional, exactly what the fire department had asked for. And Vanessa, my new supervisor, smashed it on the conference table like it was nothing. The client stared. The fire chief looked uncomfortable. One of the paramedics shifted in his seat. Vanessa did not even glance at me. She just smiled at them and said we would start over. From scratch, with someone more competent. The client asked if he could have my card. Vanessa handed him hers instead. I sat there. Did not speak, did not move. Just watched the pieces of my work scattered across the table like they meant nothing. When the meeting ended, I packed up in silence. Vanessa stayed behind to chat with the client. I heard her laugh, heard her mention my name. Something about giving younger staff too much responsibility too soon. I walked out of that building and sat in my truck for 20 minutes. Just stared at the dashboard, hands on the wheel, engine off. Something was wrong. And it was not just about the prototype. Vanessa had been hired 8 months earlier. She came in with a polished resume, a confident handshake, and a way of speaking that made upper management listen. She was 41, experienced, had worked at a competitor before joining us. Everyone thought she was a great addition. I did not. Not because she was strict or demanding. I could handle that. It was something else. The way she looked at my work. The way she asked questions that were not really questions. The way she took credit for ideas that were not hers. 3 weeks after she started, I finished a redesign for a medical cart system. It was a project I had been leading for 6 months, the kind of thing that could put my name on the map. Vanessa walked into my office, looked at the drawings, and told me it needed more refinement. She took the files, said she would present them to the design review board herself. 2 days later, she stood in front of the executives and pitched my concept, word for word, drawing for drawing. She even used the same client pain points I had outlined. When they asked who developed it, she said it was a team effort. Then she thanked me for assisting. I did not say anything. I should have. But I did not. Then it happened again. A packaging redesign for a pharmaceutical client. I had worked with the client directly, built the relationship, done the research. When it came time to present, Vanessa insisted on leading the meeting. She reworked my presentation slides, changed the formatting, added her name to the title page. The client loved it, signed the contract. Vanessa got the bonus. I got a handshake and a mention in the internal newsletter. After that, things got worse. She started excluding me from client calls, rescheduling meetings without telling me, assigning me grunt work while she handled the high-profile projects. Projects I had started, projects I had built from the ground up. I tried talking to her once, asked if there was an issue, if I had done something wrong. She smiled, told me I was doing fine, said she just wanted to make sure I was not overwhelmed. Then she handed me a stack of technical drawings to review. Drawings I had already reviewed. Twice. I knew what was happening. I just did not know how deep it went. My coworker, Julian, noticed it too. He had been at Terwin Defense for 11 years. Quiet guy, did not get involved in office politics. But he pulled me aside one afternoon and asked if Vanessa was taking my work. I did not answer right away. He said he had seen it before. At his last job. A manager who built a career on other people's ideas. It never ended well. He told me to document everything, save emails, keep copies of my designs, cover myself. I thanked him. Did not tell him I had already started. Because I had. Every project, every concept, every conversation. I kept records. Not because I thought I would need them, but because something in my gut told me to. And now, sitting in my truck after watching Vanessa destroy my prototype, that gut feeling was louder than ever. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, scrolled through the last 3 months of messages, every project she had taken, every meeting she had excluded me from, every idea she had rebranded as her own. It was all there, in writing, time-stamped, documented. I closed the email and stared out the windshield. The parking lot was nearly empty. The sun was setting behind the mountains. The air felt cold. I thought about my dad. He had been a machinist for 32 years, worked in the same factory, same shift, same crew. He used to tell me that hard work always paid off, that if you did your job well, people would notice. I believed him. For a long time, I believed him. But sitting in that truck staring at nothing, I realized something. Hard work only paid off if someone let it. If someone did not take it. If someone did not rewrite the story and put their name on it instead. Vanessa had rewritten my story, and nobody had stopped her. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, drove home in silence. When I got back to my apartment, I made a sandwich, sat on the couch, turned on the television, did not watch it, just sat there, thinking. My phone buzzed, a text from Julian. He asked if I was okay, said he heard what happened in the meeting. I texted back, told him I was fine. He did not believe me, sent another message, said if I needed anything, just ask. I appreciated it, but I did not need anything from him, not yet. What I needed was clarity. I needed to understand what Vanessa was really doing, and why. Because this was not just about one prototype. This was bigger. I could feel it. Something was coming, and I needed to be ready. I grew up in Provo. My dad worked in manufacturing. My mom taught elementary school. We were not rich, but we were stable. My parents believed in doing things the right way, showing up, putting in the work, building something you could be proud of. I carried that with me, all the way through college, all the way into my career. I studied industrial design at the University of Utah, graduated with honors, got an internship at a small firm in Sandy, worked my way up, learned how to sketch, how to prototype, how to think through problems that did not have obvious solutions. When I was 23, Terwin Defense hired me. It was a big deal. They were a mid-sized company that specialized in equipment for emergency responders and military applications. Rugged designs, high standards, good reputation. I started as a junior designer, spent the first year doing revisions and technical drawings, supporting senior staff, learning the systems. I did not mind. I wanted to prove myself, wanted to show I could handle bigger projects. And I did. By my second year, I was leading small projects. By my third year, I was managing client relationships. By my fourth year, I was one of the go-to designers for complex builds. That was when Vanessa showed up. She joined as a senior design manager. Her role was to oversee projects, coordinate between teams, make sure deadlines were met and clients were happy. On paper, it made sense. The company was growing. We needed more structure. But from the start, something felt off. Vanessa had a way of inserting herself into conversations. She would walk into the design studio, stand behind someone's desk, look at their screen, ask questions, not the helpful kind, the kind that made you second-guess yourself. She did it to me, multiple times. I would be sketching a concept. She would lean over my shoulder, pause, then say something like, "Interesting approach. Have you considered simplifying it?" I would explain my reasoning. She would nod, say she understood. Then 2 days later, she would pitch a version of my concept to the executives. Simplified, just like she suggested, with her name on it. It was subtle, calculated, and it worked. The executives loved her. She spoke their language, talked about ROI and market positioning and operational efficiency, things that made sense in boardrooms, things that made her look good. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, kept working, kept designing. My best friend Trevor told me I was being paranoid. He worked in a different department, supply chain logistics. He did not see what I saw, did not understand how it felt to watch someone take credit for your work. He said Vanessa was just doing her job, that managers were supposed to oversee projects, that it was not personal. I did not argue with him, but I knew he was wrong, because it was personal. It had to be. You do not systematically erase someone's contributions by accident. You do not exclude them from meetings. You do not rewrite their presentations. You do not destroy their prototypes in front of clients, not unless you are trying to push them out. And that was the part I could not figure out. Why would Vanessa want me gone? I was good at my job. I met deadlines. I brought in clients. I did not cause problems, unless that was the problem. Maybe I was too good. Maybe I made her look unnecessary. Maybe she saw me as a threat. Or maybe she just saw an opportunity. A young designer with good ideas and no political power. Someone she could take from without consequence. I did not know. But I was going to find out. The week after the prototype incident, I started paying closer attention. I watched how Vanessa moved through the office, who she talked to, what she said, how she positioned herself. She spent a lot of time with the executives, especially Gregory, the vice president of operations. He was the one who had hired her, the one who championed her ideas, the one who seemed to believe everything she said. I also noticed she avoided certain people. Julian, for example. He had been around long enough to see through her act. And Melissa, one of the senior engineers. She had questioned Vanessa once in a meeting, asked where a particular concept had originated. Vanessa deflected, changed the subject. Melissa did not push, but she did not forget either. I made a mental note. If I needed allies, those two were possibilities. But for now I kept quiet, kept documenting, kept working. Then something happened that changed everything. I was working late one Thursday. Most of the office had cleared out. I was finishing a technical drawing for a new project, a portable water filtration system for disaster relief. It was early stage, still rough, but I was excited about it. I saved my work, locked my computer, grabbed my jacket. As I walked past Vanessa's office, I noticed her door was cracked open. The light was on. I heard her voice. She was on the phone. I should have kept walking, but I did not. I stopped, stood outside the door, listened. She was talking to someone about a contract, a big one, a government contract for emergency vehicle equipment, the kind of contract that could define the company's next 2 years. And she was pitching my designs, the ones I had been developing for the past 6 months, the ones she had told me were not ready, the ones she had pushed back on in every review meeting. She described them in detail, layout, materials, cost projections, everything I had worked on, everything I had documented, everything she had seen because I had shared it with her during project updates. She was not just taking credit. She was selling my work. To a client I had never spoken to. For a contract I did not even know existed. I stood there, frozen, listening to her voice. Calm, confident, completely unbothered. When she hung up, I walked away. Quietly, quickly, before she could see me. I got in my truck, drove home, did not sleep, because now I knew. This was not just about taking credit. This was about taking everything, and I was not going to let her. The next morning, I walked into the office like nothing had happened. Vanessa was already there, sitting in the break room, drinking coffee, talking to Gregory. She looked up when I walked in, smiled, asked how my evening was. I said it was fine. She nodded, took a sip of her coffee, went back to her conversation. I poured myself a cup, did not say another word, just walked back to my desk. My hands were steady, my mind was clear. I had spent the entire night thinking, planning, figuring out what I was going to do. Because I knew now. I knew exactly what Vanessa was doing, and I knew I had to stop her. But I could not do it alone, and I could not do it loudly. I needed proof. Real proof. Not just emails and project files. I needed something undeniable. Something that would make it impossible for her to lie her way out. I started by going through my records again. Every email I had sent to Vanessa. Every project update. Every design file. I organized them by date, cross-referenced them with her presentations, with client pitches, with internal reports. The pattern was clear. Every major project I had worked on in the past 8 months had been rebranded, repackaged, presented as her work. Sometimes she included my name in the fine print. Sometimes she did not. But the narrative was always the same. She was the architect. I was the assistant. It was a lie. A deliberate, calculated lie. And she had been telling it for months. I saved everything to an external drive, backed it up twice, kept one copy at home, one in my truck, one in a cloud storage account she could not access. Then I started gathering evidence beyond my own projects. I talked to Julian, asked him if he had noticed anything strange about Vanessa's presentations. He said he had. Said she had a habit of claiming ownership over collaborative work. He gave me examples, names, dates. I talked to Melissa. She was more cautious, did not want to get involved, but she confirmed what I suspected. Vanessa had taken ideas from her too, during brainstorming sessions, during design reviews, small things that were hard to prove, but things that added up. I thanked them both, did not tell them what I was planning, just said I was keeping track. Because I was, and the picture was getting clearer. Vanessa was not just stealing my work. She was stealing from everyone. Anyone who had a good idea. Anyone who was too junior to fight back. Anyone who did not have the political capital to call her out. She had built her entire reputation on other people's labor, and nobody had stopped her, because nobody had seen the full picture, until now. I kept working, kept my head down, kept pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was building a case so airtight that not even Gregory could ignore it. Then 2 weeks after I overheard her phone call, something happened that confirmed everything. I was called into a meeting, unscheduled, urgent. Vanessa was there. So was Gregory. And a woman I did not recognize. She introduced herself as Lauren, Director of Client Relations. Gregory told me to sit. I did. He said they had been reviewing the portfolio for the government contract, the emergency vehicle equipment project. He said the designs were impressive. He said the client was excited. I nodded, did not speak. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said Vanessa had done an outstanding job leading the project, that her vision and expertise had been instrumental in securing the contract, that the company was grateful for her contributions. I looked at Vanessa. She was smiling, not at me, at Gregory. Then Gregory turned to me, said I had been helpful in supporting the project, that my technical drawings were solid, that I should be proud of the work I had done. Supporting. Technical drawings. Proud of the work I had done. I wanted to stand up. Wanted to tell him the truth. Wanted to show him the files, the emails, the proof. But I did not. Because I was not ready. Not yet. Instead, I nodded, thanked him, said I was glad the project was moving forward. Vanessa glanced at me, just for a second, and in that second, I saw it. The satisfaction, the control, the certainty that she had won. She had no idea what was coming. When the meeting ended, I walked back to my desk, sat down, opened my laptop, pulled up the file I had been building. The evidence, the timeline, the proof. I added the meeting to the record, time-stamped it, noted who was there, what was said, how Vanessa had positioned herself. Then I closed the laptop, took a breath, and made a decision. I was not going to confront her. Not directly. Not in a way that gave her room to deflect. Not in a way that let her spin the story. I was going to go over her head, and I was going to do it the right way. That evening I drafted an email. It was calm, professional, detailed. I addressed it to Gregory, copied the head of Human Resources, attached a 30-page document outlining every project Vanessa had claimed, every email chain, every presentation, every piece of evidence that showed she had systematically taken credit for work that was not hers. I included a timeline, a comparison of her pitches in my original files, testimonies from Julian and Melissa, screenshots of project files with metadata showing who created them and when, I wrote that I was not seeking revenge. I was seeking accountability, that I believed in the company, that I wanted to continue contributing, but that I could not do so in an environment where my work was being stolen. I read it 3 times, made sure every word was right, every fact was accurate, every claim was backed up. Then I saved it as a draft. Did not send it. Not yet. Because I needed one more thing, one final piece of evidence that would make it impossible to deny. And I knew exactly how to get it. The government contract presentation was scheduled for the following week. Vanessa was leading it. Gregory would be there. So would the client. So would Lauren. And so would I, because I was listed as the technical lead, the one who would answer questions about design specifications, materials, functionality. I was going to let Vanessa present my work, let her take credit, let her stand in front of everyone and claim ownership. And then when they asked questions she could not answer, I was going to step in, not to save her, but to expose her, because that was the moment where the lie would unravel, where the truth would come out, where everything would change. I just had to wait, and I was good at waiting. The presentation was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. I spent the weekend preparing, not for Vanessa, for myself. I reviewed every technical detail of the emergency vehicle equipment project, every material specification, every cost analysis, every design decision I had made over the past 6 months. I knew that project better than anyone because I had built it from the ground up. Every iteration, every prototype, every revision. Vanessa had the slides, she had the talking points, she had the polished presentation, but she did not have the knowledge, and that was going to matter. Monday morning, I arrived at the office early. Vanessa was already in the conference room, setting up. Reviewing her notes, she looked calm, confident, like she had done this 100 times before. Maybe she had. I walked past the conference room, did not stop, did not make eye contact, just kept walking to my desk. Julian caught me in the hallway, asked if I was ready for the presentation. I told him I was. He looked at me for a moment. Then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Do not let her bury you." I nodded, told him I would not. Tuesday morning arrived. I dressed carefully, button-down shirt, slacks, clean shoes. I wanted to look professional, composed, like someone who belonged in that room. I arrived at the conference room 15 minutes early. Vanessa was already there, so was Gregory, and Lauren, and 3 representatives from the government contract office. 2 men, 1 woman, all in suits, all carrying briefcases. Vanessa greeted them warmly, shook hands, made small talk. She was good at this part. The schmoozing, the rapport building, the performance. Gregory introduced me as the technical lead. I shook hands with the clients, smiled, said I was looking forward to the presentation. The woman from the contract office asked if I had worked on the project from the beginning. I said I had. Vanessa jumped in, said we had collaborated closely, that it had been a team effort, that she was proud of what we had accomplished together. The word "together" hung in the air like a bad smell. The presentation started at 10 a.m. Vanessa stood at the front of the room, clicked through the slides, talked about the vision, the market need, the innovative design approach. She was polished, rehearsed. Every word sounded natural. Every transition was smooth. She described the modular storage system, the reinforced materials, the ergonomic access points, the cost efficiency, all things I had designed, all things I had spent months perfecting. She presented it like it was her idea, like she had conceptualized it, like she had solved the problems. The clients listened, took notes, nodded. Then they started asking questions. The first one was easy, about weight capacity. Vanessa answered it. She had memorized the spec sheet. She knew the numbers. The second question was harder, about material fatigue, about how the system would hold up under repeated stress, in extreme temperatures, in wet conditions. Vanessa hesitated, just for a second, Then she said the materials had been tested extensively, that they met all industry standards. The client pressed, asked about specific testing protocols, about lab results, about failure rates. Vanessa looked at me, said I could speak to the technical details. I stood up, walked to the front of the room, pulled up the testing data on my laptop, connected it to the projector. I walked them through every test, every variable, every result. I explained the material composition, the thermal expansion coefficients, the load distribution analysis. The clients were impressed, asked follow-up questions. I answered them, all of them, without hesitation, without notes. Because I had done the work, I had run the tests, I had analyzed the data. Vanessa stood to the side, smiling, nodding, like she was proud of me, like I was her protege. It made my skin crawl. The presentation continued. More slides, more talking points, more questions. And every time the questions got technical, Vanessa deferred to me. Every time the clients wanted details, she stepped aside. By the end of the presentation, it was clear. I knew the project. She knew the pitch. The clients thanked us, said they were impressed, said they would be in touch. Gregory shook their hands, walked them to the elevator. Vanessa followed. I stayed in the conference room, packed up my laptop, disconnected the cables. Julian walked in, asked how it went. I told him it went exactly as expected. He looked at me, said I should have taken credit, should have spoken up. I told him I did not need to. The clients knew. They had seen it. They had asked the questions. They had watched Vanessa fumble. They had watched me step in. Julian nodded, said he hoped I was right. I was, but not in the way I expected. 2 days later, I got an email from Lauren, the director of client relations. She said the contract office had some additional questions, technical questions. They wanted to schedule a follow-up call with me, specifically, not Vanessa, me. I forwarded the email to Vanessa, copied Gregory, said I was happy to take the call, asked if she wanted to join. She replied within 5 minutes, said she had a conflict, said she trusted me to handle it, said to keep her updated. I scheduled the call for the following Monday. That weekend, I finalized my email to Gregory, the one I had been drafting, the one with all the evidence, all the proof. I added a new section about the presentation, about how Vanessa had claimed credit but could not answer basic questions, about how the clients had seen through it. I attached the call request from Lauren, highlighted the fact that they had asked for me, not her. Then I read the email one more time, made sure it was perfect, made sure it was undeniable, and I sent it. Sunday night, 11 p.m., to Gregory, to Human Resources, to the head of the design department. I did not sleep that night, just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the fallout. Monday morning, I arrived at the office at 8 a.m. My inbox was empty. No response from Gregory, no response from HR, nothing. I did not know if that was good or bad. At 9 a.m., I took the call with the contract office. It lasted an hour. They asked detailed questions about design modifications, about manufacturing timelines, about cost projections. I answered everything. Professionally, thoroughly, confidently. At the end of the call, the woman from the contract office said something that caught me off guard. She said they appreciated working with someone who actually understood the project. She said it was refreshing. I thanked her, ended the call, sent a summary email to Gregory and Vanessa. By 10 a.m., I still had not heard anything. At 11 a.m., I got a calendar invite, meeting with Gregory and the head of HR, scheduled for 2 p.m. that day. My stomach dropped. This was it. I spent the next 3 hours working, or trying to. Mostly I just stared at my screen, refreshed my email, waited. At 1:55 p.m., I walked to the conference room. Gregory was already there. So was Patricia, the head of HR, and someone I did not recognize. A man in his 50s, suit and tie, serious expression, Gregory introduced him as Walter, outside counsel, legal. I sat down, did not speak, just waited. Gregory opened a folder, pulled out a printed copy of my email. 30 pages, every attachment, every piece of evidence. He said they had reviewed my claims, said they had conducted interviews with Julian, with Melissa, with other staff members. He said they had compared project files, reviewed metadata, checked timestamps. He said they had found inconsistencies in Vanessa's reports, in her presentations, in her claims of authorship. He said they were taking my concerns seriously. Then he said something I did not expect. He said Vanessa had been placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. I sat there, stunned, did not know what to say. Patricia spoke next, said they appreciated me bringing this forward, said it took courage, said the company was committed to a fair and thorough process. Walter, the lawyer, said I should not discuss the matter with anyone, said it was important to maintain confidentiality, said they would keep me updated. I nodded, said I understood. Gregory looked at me, said he was sorry, said he should have seen it sooner, said he had trusted Vanessa, said that trust had been misplaced. I did not respond, did not need to. The apology was there, but it did not change what had happened. It did not give me back the credit I had lost, the opportunities that had been taken. But it was a start. The meeting ended at 2:45 p.m. I walked back to my desk, sat down, stared at my computer. Julian walked over, asked what happened. I told him I could not talk about it. He nodded, said he understood, said he was glad I had done something. I thanked him, meant it. But I was not done. Not yet. Because administrative leave was not justice. It was a pause. And I needed to make sure the pause did not end with Vanessa walking back into the office like nothing had happened. I needed to make sure the truth stuck. The investigation lasted 3 weeks. During that time, I kept working, kept my head down, focused on my projects, tried to act like everything was normal, but it was not normal. The office felt different. People whispered, glanced at me when they thought I was not looking. Some avoided me. Others asked questions I could not answer. Vanessa was gone. Her office was empty. Her nameplate was still on the door. But she was not there. Nobody knew what was happening, officially. But rumors spread. People talked. Some said she had been fired. Others said she had quit. A few said she was suing the company. None of it was true. At least not yet. I stayed quiet. Did not engage. Did not fuel the rumors. Just worked. But inside, I was watching. Waiting. Hoping the investigation would find what I already knew. 2 weeks in, Patricia called me into her office. Said they had finished interviewing staff. Said they had reviewed all the project files. Said they had compared Vanessa's presentations with the original source materials. She said the evidence was clear. Vanessa had systematically misrepresented her contributions. She had taken credit for work that was not hers. She had excluded team members from recognition. She had manipulated project records. Patricia said it was a serious breach of professional conduct, said it violated company policy, said it damaged the integrity of the design department. I asked what would happen next. She said they were finalizing their report, said it would be reviewed by senior leadership, said a decision would be made within the week. I thanked her, left her office, went back to my desk. That night I could not sleep. Again. I kept thinking about what Patricia had said, about the evidence being clear, about the breach of conduct. It sounded good. It sounded like justice. But I had learned not to trust appearances, not after everything that had happened. So I waited, and I prepared. Because I knew there was a chance Vanessa would fight back, would spin the story, would find a way to deflect. And I was right. 4 days later, I got an email. From Walter, the lawyer. He said Vanessa had retained legal counsel, said she was disputing the findings, said she claimed the investigation was biased, that I had manipulated evidence, that I had coerced other employees into supporting my version of events. I read the email 3 times. Each time I felt the anger rising, the frustration, the disbelief. She was lying, again, twisting the truth, trying to make me the villain. But this time, it was not going to work. I replied to Walter. Said I stood by everything I had submitted. Said I had documentation for every claim. Said I was willing to participate in any additional review. I also said I had more evidence I had not included in my original email, evidence that would make her position untenable. Because I did. I had recordings, not of private conversations, but of meetings, client calls, design reviews, meetings where Vanessa had claimed credit, where she had presented my work as hers, where she had lied. I had recorded them, not because I was planning to use them, but because I wanted to protect myself, in case something like this happened. And now it had. I sent Walter the files, labeled them clearly, included timestamps, context, transcripts. He replied 2 hours later, said he would review them, said he would be in touch. I did not hear from him for 3 days. During those 3 days, I worked, ate, slept, barely. I checked my email every hour, refreshed my phone constantly, waited for some kind of update. Finally, on Friday afternoon, I got a calendar invite. Meeting with Gregory, Patricia, Walter, Monday morning, 9 a.m. This was it, the final decision. I spent the weekend preparing, not for a presentation, not for a defense, just mentally preparing for whatever came next. Monday morning arrived. I walked into the conference room at 8:55 a.m. Everyone was already there. Gregory, Patricia, Walter, and someone new. A woman in her early 60s. Sharp suit, confident posture. She introduced herself as Diane, Chief Operating Officer. I had never met her before, did not know she was involved. Gregory started the meeting, said they had completed their investigation, said they had reviewed all the evidence, including the recordings I had submitted. He said the findings were conclusive. Vanessa had engaged in a pattern of misconduct. She had misrepresented her role in multiple projects. She had taken credit for work performed by other team members. She had excluded contributors from recognition and compensation. He said her actions had violated company policy, had damaged team morale, had put the company at risk of legal and reputational harm. Then Diane spoke. She said Vanessa's employment had been terminated, effective immediately. She said the company would not be providing a reference. She said Vanessa had been offered a severance package in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement and a release of claims. She said Vanessa had refused, said she was threatening litigation, said the company was prepared to defend itself. Diane looked at me, said they appreciated my professionalism throughout the process, said my work had been invaluable, said they recognized the contributions I had made, not just to the projects, but to the integrity of the department. Then she said something that surprised me. She said they wanted to promote me to senior designer, with a salary increase, and a formal role leading the emergency vehicle equipment project, the government contract, the one Vanessa had tried to claim. I sat there, processing, did not know what to say. Patricia added that they would be issuing a formal correction to the internal records, to the client presentations, to the project files, crediting me appropriately for the work I had done. She said it was not enough, but it was a start. I nodded, said I appreciated it, said I was glad the truth had come out. Gregory said he was sorry. Again, said he should have noticed sooner, said he had been too trusting, too willing to believe Vanessa's version of events. I did not respond. The apology was genuine, but it did not erase what had happened. It did not give me back the 8 months I had spent watching someone else take credit for my work, but it was something. And for now, that was enough. The meeting ended at 9:45 a.m. I walked back to my desk, Sat down, opened my laptop. Julian walked over, asked what happened. I told him Vanessa was gone, fired. He smiled, said it was about time, said he was glad. I thanked him, said I could not have done it without him, without Melissa, without everyone who had spoken up. He shrugged, said it was the right thing to do. That afternoon, I got an email from Lauren, the director of client relations. She said the contract office had formally awarded the government contract to Terwin Defense. She said they were impressed with the design, with the presentation, with the technical expertise. She said they specifically requested that I remain the lead on the project. I replied, thanked her, said I was looking forward to it, and I was. Because for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I was working for myself. Not for someone else, not for someone who would take what I built and call it theirs. But I also knew this was not over. Vanessa had been fired, but she had not accepted it. She was threatening to sue, to fight back, to keep the lie alive. And I needed to make sure she did not win. Not in court, not in public, not anywhere. Because the truth mattered, and I was not going to let her rewrite it. Not again. Vanessa filed her lawsuit 3 weeks later. She claimed wrongful termination, defamation, retaliation. She said the company had scapegoated her, that I had fabricated evidence, that the investigation had been biased from the start. Her lawyer sent a demand letter, requested a settlement, 7 figures, plus a public apology, plus reinstatement of her position. The company refused. Walter called me, said they were going to fight it, said they had the evidence, said they were confident, but he also said it was going to get messy, that Vanessa's lawyer would try to discredit me, would question my motives, would paint me as a disgruntled employee trying to take her down. He said I needed to be prepared, to stay calm, to stick to the facts. I told him I would. But inside I was furious. Not because she was suing, I expected that, but because she was still lying, still pretending she was the victim, still trying to manipulate the narrative. And I was done being quiet. I asked Walter if there was anything I could do, anything that would help the case. He said to keep documenting, to save every email, every message, every interaction related to the lawsuit. I said I would. But I also had another idea. I reached out to the clients, the ones from the government contract, the ones who had asked for me specifically, the ones who had seen Vanessa fumble during the presentation. I did not ask them to testify, did not ask them to get involved. I just asked if they would be willing to provide a statement about their experience working with the team, about who had demonstrated expertise, about who had answered their questions. They agreed. All 3 of them. They sent formal letters to the company, describing their interactions, praising the technical work, noting that I had been the primary point of contact for all substantive discussions. They did not mention Vanessa by name, but they did not have to. The implication was clear. Walter said the letters were helpful, said they strengthened the company's position, said they demonstrated a pattern of behavior that aligned with the investigation findings. I also reached out to Julian and Melissa, asked if they would be willing to provide affidavits, describing their experiences with Vanessa, describing the pattern of credit theft, describing the conversations we had had. They both agreed, without hesitation. Julian said he was glad someone was finally holding her accountable, said he had seen too many people get away with this kind of thing, said it was about time someone fought back. Melissa said she wished she had spoken up sooner, said she had been afraid of retaliation, of losing her job, of being labeled a troublemaker. I told her I understood, said I had felt the same way, but that staying silent only protected the people who were doing wrong. She nodded, said she would never make that mistake again. Over the next 2 months, the lawsuit moved forward. Depositions, discovery, legal motions. It was slow, tedious, exhausting. But I stayed focused, kept working, kept leading the government contract project, kept proving that I deserved to be in that role. The project was going well, the clients were happy, the prototypes were on schedule, the team was strong, And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building something that mattered, something that was mine. Then, in early November, something shifted. Walter called me, said Vanessa's lawyer had reached out, said they wanted to discuss a settlement. I asked why. He said discovery had not gone well for her, that the evidence was overwhelming, that her own emails and project files contradicted her claims, that the client letters had undermined her credibility, that the affidavits from Julian and Melissa had shown a pattern of misconduct. He said her lawyer was advising her to settle, to cut her losses, to move on. I asked what the company was offering. He said nothing. No settlement, no apology, no money. He said the company was prepared to go to trial, to defend its decision, to make the case public if necessary. I asked what he thought I should do. He said it was not my decision, that it was between Vanessa and the company, but that if I had any thoughts, now was the time to share them. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to push forward, to go to trial, to make sure everyone knew what she had done, to make sure her name was permanently attached to the truth. But another part of me was tired of fighting, tired of thinking about her, tired of letting her take up space in my life. I told Walter I trusted the company to make the right decision, that I would support whatever they chose. He thanked me, said he would keep me updated. 2 weeks later, the case was dismissed, with prejudice. Vanessa had dropped the lawsuit, no settlement, no apology, no admission of guilt, but also no vindication for her. No public statement claiming she had been wronged, no narrative that painted her as a victim. Just silence. Walter said it was the best possible outcome, that it meant she had no legal ground to stand on, that it meant the company's findings were sound, that it meant the truth had won. I agreed, but I also knew it was not perfect, because Vanessa was still out there, still able to move on, still able to apply for other jobs, still able to do to someone else what she had done to me, unless I stopped her. I thought about writing a review, posting on a professional forum, warning other companies, other designers, other people who might work with her. But I did not, because I did not need to. The truth was already out there. In the investigation records, in the client letters, in the affidavits, in the legal filings. Anyone who did their due diligence would find it. Anyone who asked the right questions would hear the story. And that was enough. In early December, the government contract project reached a major milestone. The final prototypes were approved. The manufacturing timeline was set. The client was thrilled. Gregory called a team meeting, thanked everyone for their hard work, recognized the contributions of each team member. Then he turned to me, said I had led the project with integrity and skill, said the company was proud to have me, said I had set a new standard for what leadership looked like. He handed me a plaque, engraved with my name, the project title, the date. It was a small thing, a symbolic gesture, but it meant something. Julian clapped. Melissa smiled. The rest of the team joined in. After the meeting, I walked back to my desk, set the plaque down, looked at it, my name, my project, my work, no asterisks, no footnotes, no disclaimers, just the truth. That evening, I drove home, stopped at a diner on the way, ordered a burger and fries, sat in a booth by the window, watched the traffic go by. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor, my best friend. He asked how things were going. I told him they were good, better than they had been in a long time. He said he was glad, said he was proud of me, said he knew it had not been easy. I thanked him, said it had not, but that it had been worth it. Because it had. Not just because I had won, but because I had stood up, had fought back, had refused to let someone else take what I had built. And in the end, that was what mattered. The final blow came in January. I was working late, finishing up some documentation for the manufacturing phase. The office was quiet. Most people had gone home. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was a woman. She introduced herself as Jessica, said she was a senior designer at Crimson Harbor Group, a company in Portland, Oregon. She said they were considering hiring Vanessa, said she had listed Terwin Defense as a reference. My stomach tightened. Jessica said she had done some digging, found my name attached to several projects Vanessa had claimed on her resume, found discrepancies in the timelines, found client letters that did not match her version of events. She said she wanted to hear my side of the story. Off the record. I paused, thought about it, thought about what Walter had said, about confidentiality, about not discussing the case. But the case was over. Dismissed. Closed. And this woman was asking for the truth, not gossip, not rumors, the truth. So I told her everything, the stolen projects, the manipulated presentations, the investigation, the lawsuit, the dismissal. I did not embellish, did not exaggerate, just laid out the facts, let them speak for themselves. Jessica listened, did not interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you. That's what I needed to know." I asked if she was still considering hiring Vanessa. She said no. Not after hearing this, not after confirming what she had already suspected. She said Vanessa had interviewed well, had presented herself as accomplished, experienced, a leader, but Jessica had worked in the industry long enough to know when something did not add up, and Vanessa's resume had not added up. She thanked me again, said she appreciated my honesty, said she would make sure other companies in her network knew to be cautious. I thanked her, hung up, sat there for a minute. It was not revenge, not in the dramatic sense, but it was justice, quiet, effective, permanent. Because Vanessa could lie to herself, could lie to her lawyer, could lie to potential employers. But the truth was following her, and it always would. 2 weeks later, I got another call, this time from a recruiter, a man named David. He said he had been contacted by Vanessa, said she was looking for a senior design position, said she had impressive credentials. But he had also done his research, found the connection to Terwin Defense, found my name, found the project files that did not match her claims. He asked the same question Jessica had asked. What had really happened, I told him. Same story, same facts, same outcome. He thanked me, said he would pass on her application, said he did not work with people who misrepresented their experience. Over the next 2 months, I got 3 more calls, all from companies Vanessa had applied to, all asking the same questions, all getting the same answers. Each time I told the truth, calmly, professionally, without emotion, and each time, the result was the same. Vanessa did not get the job. I did not know if she knew why, did not know if she had figured out that her reputation had followed her, that the truth was louder than her lies. But I knew, and that was enough. In March, the government contract project was completed. The equipment was delivered. The clients were thrilled. They sent a formal letter of commendation to Terwin Defense, specifically naming me as the lead designer. Gregory framed it, hung it in the main hallway, next to the other company achievements. My name, my project, my recognition. It felt good, not in a boastful way, just in a quiet, satisfying way, the way it feels when something is finally right. Julian walked past the framed letter one afternoon, stopped, read it, smiled at me. He said, "You did it." I nodded, said I had. He said, "She's done. You know that, right?" I said I did. Because it was true. Vanessa was done. Not because I had destroyed her, but because she had destroyed herself. I had just made sure people knew about it. Julian patted me on the shoulder, walked away. I stood there, looked at the letter, at my name, at the truth. And I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Peace. Spring came. The days got longer, warmer. The office felt different. Lighter, I kept working, leading projects, building things, designing solutions, doing what I loved. The government contract led to more opportunities, other clients, other contracts, other chances to prove myself. Gregory promoted me again to lead designer, the youngest person in the company to hold that title. He said it was earned, said I had shown integrity and skill, said I represented what the company stood for. I thanked him, meant it. But I also knew the promotion was not just about my work. It was about what I had done, how I had stood up, how I had fought for the truth, and that mattered more than any title. In late April, I ran into Melissa in the parking lot. She was getting into her car, looked tired, but happy. She said she had heard about my promotion, said she was glad, said I deserved it. I thanked her, asked how she was doing. She said she was good, said the department felt different now, more collaborative, more honest. She said people were not afraid to speak up anymore, not afraid to take credit for their work. She said that was because of me, because I had shown them it was possible, that standing up mattered. I did not know what to say to that. Just nodded, said I was glad. She smiled, got in her car, drove away. I stood there for a moment, thinking about what she had said, about how things had changed, about how one person fighting back had shifted the culture. It was not something I had planned, not something I had set out to do. I had just wanted to protect my work, to stop someone from stealing what I had built. But in the process, I had done more than that. I had shown other people they did not have to accept it, did not have to stay quiet, did not have to let someone else control the narrative. And that felt like something worth doing. In May, I took a week off, drove up to Montana, stayed in a cabin near the mountains, spent the days hiking, fishing, sitting by the water, thinking about nothing in particular. It was the first time in over a year that I felt completely relaxed, completely at peace. No emails, no meetings, no deadlines. Just quiet. On the last day, I sat on the porch of the cabin, watched the sun set over the trees, thought about everything that had happened, about Vanessa, about the stolen projects, about the investigation, about the lawsuit, about the calls from recruiters, about the promotions, about the change in the office culture. And I realized something. I had spent so long fighting, so long focused on stopping her, on proving the truth, on making sure she did not win. But now it was over. And I did not need to think about her anymore, did not need to carry that weight, did not need to let her take up space in my mind. She was gone, and I was still here, still building, still creating, still doing the work I loved. That was the real victory. Not the promotion, not the recognition, not the fact that she had failed to get a job. The real victory was that I had taken my life back, had reclaimed my work, had proven that the truth mattered, that integrity mattered, that standing up mattered, and I had done it without becoming someone I was not, without compromising my values, without letting anger consume me. I had just told the truth, and the truth had been enough. I drove back to Salt Lake City the next morning, went back to work, back to my desk, back to my projects, and I kept building. Vanessa never worked in industrial design again. Word had spread through the industry, quietly, efficiently. Her reputation followed her everywhere, every application, every interview, every reference check. The truth caught up, and it stayed. She had built her career on other people's work, and when that foundation crumbled, there was nothing left. No skills to fall back on, no real expertise, just empty claims and a trail of burned bridges. I had spent 8 months watching her steal my work, but in the end all I had to do was tell the truth.